so effective. Here with reaction is the former GOP presidential candidate, probably soon to be governor from Ohio. He's going to announce tonight, right here on this show. Vivek Ramaswamy is with us. Sir, how are you?
Good to see you, Sean.
You are free to do so if you want. I'm just saying. All right, so...
We'll have more to say soon, but thank you, man.
You're very welcome. I'm always here to help. So most Democrats are just shrieking. They're just utter hysteria, and somehow the sky is falling. I kind of like the Obama guys and their comments the best, and Carville's comments the best. No, the cavalry's not coming. Republicans are actually on board with cutting waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption. And the Obama guy is saying, you know, why didn't we do that, is kind of revealing. But there are not many of those voices left.
Look, here's my breakdown of what's happened in the Democratic Party, Sean. There are effectively two parties within the Democrat Party. On one hand, you have the woke identity politics left. It's all about race, gender, sexuality, and climate change. And what happened is they gained a chokehold on their party away from the wing that wanted to focus on economic redistribution, economic inequality. Frankly, you and I would disagree with both of those wings, but the latter is at least more reasonable, is at least more clear-headed. And so what I hope for the sake of the country is at least that wing of the Democratic Party reemerges to make a better version. You know, I think it's probably divided about evenly in the Democratic Party. That's what I would say.
No
but
way.
The other wing, the woke wing, gained the control.
Disagree.
They're the ones that gained the control. You might be right about that, but either way, that's for them to figure out, Sean. That's not our problem. That's what's going on over there.
Yeah, I don't think it's 50-50, though. I mean, I always respect your view. I think it's taken over the party like a cancer, and it's like 95%. You have a few voices, Axelrod, you know, Carville, Rahm Emanuel, the Obama guys on radio, Dean Phillips. But the rest of the party is shrieking. They're flipping out, you know, raging at all times.
I think you are right about one thing, Sean, is when you're talking about the elite voices or so-called elite voices that appear on television or even those in elected office, I think you're right. When you're talking about everyday citizens across the country, even those who used to identify with the Bill Clinton Democratic Party, maybe it's closer to a more even split. Either way, that's not your or my problem to solve. That's their issue to address. But that's the real war for the future of the Democratic Party. Here's, I think, our way forward as a country is that we have to take their attitude of victimhood. That's what's defined the modern Democratic Party, is this culture of victimhood. Just reject that and say we are victors as Americans. That's what the Republican Party today stands for. Victory, not victimhood. More winning, less whining. And I think that's inspiring more people to say, we're not just running from something. We're now running back to our vision of the American dream, something we don't talk about enough anymore, but we're going to start talking about more, which is the idea that we want a country where everybody, even the Democrats, are able to live a better life through their own hard work and dedication rather than wallowing in victimhood. That's the America that Donald Trump is leading us to, and that's what I'm excited about for what's ahead.
Before kind of moving on to this next chapter, which I believe will be a run for the governorship in Ohio, before that, you were with DOGE. You were there at the beginning. You were there at the foundation. And so they're finding, you know, tens and tens of billions of dollars and all of this foreign money, all of it spent on radical Green New Deal programs, wokeism, transgenderism, LGBTQism, et cetera, et cetera. This is not benefiting the American people. Does that wing of the Democratic Party, whether your percentage is right or my percentage, doesn't matter. Do they really think this is a winning issue for them?
I certainly hope not, because most Americans are against bureaucracy. Most Americans are against the red tape. The biggest myth in America over much of the last 2 decades is the people we elect to run the government, they're not actually the ones who have even been running the government. It is this unelected bureaucracy in this fourth branch of government that would make our founding fathers roll over in their grave. And so to be able to say that we're getting rid of that bureaucracy, cutting cost, putting money back in the hands of taxpayers, that's what our founding fathers actually envisioned. That's what Donald Trump wants to revive. That's what DOGE was formed to do. And I'm proud to help get that off the ground, to now see that actually restore not just savings for the taxpayer. That's important, Sean. But it's about reviving our founding culture where you have a government that's actually accountable to its people rather than the other way around. And this idea that somehow it's impossible to close $2 trillion out of the federal deficit, that's nonsense. In 2019, we spent $2.5 trillion less than we do right now. 2019 wasn't some ancient period back in the Ice Age. That was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We can get back to that. I think most Americans agree with that. And whether the Democratic elites agree or not, that's the hard truth.
And you know what? Americans, I think they prefer more money for their kids in school, lower taxes, secure borders, law and order in their town and city. It's kind of fundamental. Take care of the American people first. And the American people have been, frankly, abused in this process, and they've stolen from them, their kids, and their grandkids. Vivek, when you're ready to announce, we're ready to have you back. Thank you for being with us. All right, when
Thanks,
we come
Sean.
back,
Appreciate it.